Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hoge, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. You can get that book, my book, get it at kobo.com, Kobo.com. Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. That's my book. And of course, speak English powerfully. Speak English effortlessly. Train yourself to think in English. Speak English fluently, powerfully, confidently. You must join my VIP program. Join my VIP program today at effortlessenglishclub.com. Join at effortlessenglishclub.com. I'm back. Had a break yesterday. Yesterday I was working, kind of. I was working. I had baby duty. I had a baby job. I had to watch a baby yesterday. So I spent yesterday playing with a baby and chasing a baby around. Very nice. Lots of fun. But those babies, they have endless energy. They never stop. They never stop. They just keep going and going and going. And going and going and going. Running around in circles. Endlessly curious. Quite fun, actually. But I didn't have time to record yesterday. This is baby, who I will call Baby Chan. Chan is kind of a... Japanese people know what Chan means, but Chan is something you add to someone's name. It's so you could say usually girls' names, but also little small children sometimes you can do. I've heard it with boys even. So Chan, and it kind of makes it cute. And in Spanish they have something a little bit like this, where they'll add ito or ita at the name of a word. So you might have, instead of Carlos, they'll say Carlito. And it kind of, in Spanish, that kind of means little Carlo. It's kind of affectionate, right? If it's a little child and it sounds kind of cute, or even if with an adult, you can say it and it's kind of, that gives a feeling of affection, like you like this person, like you're kind of close to them. You might do it with someone in your family, with close friends, things like that. And Chan is kind of like that in Japanese. There's Chan and Kun also. Kun is for boys, Chan for girls, although like I said, I have heard Chan sometimes with boys, but not men, but with maybe little babies, right? Baby Chan, Baby Chan. So Baby Chan is like saying little baby, cute baby. So Baby Chan yesterday was fun. I was playing with Baby Chan, and Baby Chan, we were playing with just some little toys, and then it was morning time, and in the morning we were making some coffee. My wife and I are making some coffee, and we have a little grinder, a coffee grinder, but it's a hand grinder, so you put the coffee in the top, and then you have to use your hand to it's kind of slow. It takes a while to grind up the beans. And to grind means, right, it crushes them and makes them, into powder, right, to make coffee. You can't make coffee with whole beans. You gotta crush them. So that's what the coffee grinder does. It's called grinding, is the verb, to grind. So I got it. I started doing it, and it was so interesting. Baby, and I'm saying baby, but Baby Chan is actually almost 2 years old. Actually, is 2 years old. Well, and very close to 2 years old. Anyway, so really more of a toddler than a baby. baby is, like little small baby. And a toddler, we use the word toddler in English usually to describe kind of big babies or basically small children who can walk. Once they start walking and running around, we usually call that a toddler. So that's kind of ages 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of before I would say under 6 or so. Right, so 2 to 5, 2 to 6, somewhere in that range, we call a toddler. So they're starting to talk, usually. They're usually running around at that point. They're starting to walk or already walking and running around. But they're still kind of little babies. Their personalities are still baby-like, right? So Baby John is a toddler. And it was just interesting to me because we were playing with toys, and we'd play with one little game with some toys, and then Baby John would get bored, and then we'd switch to a different toy, and then I had fun, and then Baby John would get bored. But then I started grinding the coffee. Actually, my wife started doing it first by hand. And immediately, Baby John became very, very interested and was asking, "Oh, what's that? What's that? What are you doing?" Right? You remember, my nephews love this question too. All my nephews and nieces love the same question. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why? Why? So Baby John, same thing. What are you doing? Why? And became very curious. Oh, we're grinding the beans. Why? To make coffee. And what was interesting, then Baby John, of course, became super curious about this little hand grinder, this little machine we're using with our hands to grind up the coffee. When we opened it up, showed Baby John the coffee beans, and Baby John was just super, super, super curious. And then Baby John, of course, wants to do it. I want to try. I want to do it. So we're like, okay, why not? And it's a little too difficult for the Baby John to do correctly, but Baby John could kind of do it backwards because there was no to do it normally. To grind the beans is you kind of takes a little. You need a little power, a little strength. It was too difficult. But if you turn it backwards, there's kind of it's not really grinding, right? It's not really doing anything. But Baby John feels like something's happening, like Baby John's doing it. So Baby John starts doing it, and I'm just kind of making the noise, like the baby's actually grinding up the beans. So then Baby John would do it for a little while. Then you open this little area, and then the powder, right? The coffee that you use to make the coffee, it falls down to the bottom of the machine. Then you can open up this little area and you can see it. And there was already some in there, so Baby John would do the handle and then open it up and then look at the coffee and smell it, and then we even tasted it. I tasted it a little bit, and then Baby John would want to do it again, and then sometimes I would do a little bit. Then we took out the coffee powder and we put it in the coffee maker. Kind of have to empty it, put it into the coffee maker. Pretty basic, right? Just something very basic and simple. So why am I telling this story? Because what I found interesting was how long Baby John did this. In other words, Baby John was curious about this, and Baby John stayed curious about this for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. It was pretty long, considering it's a very simple thing to do, just turning a handle. But Baby John's concentration was very high, and curiosity was very high compared to, the normal toys. That's what was interesting to me. That caught my attention. Like, oh, wow, why is Baby John so fascinated by this? And then I started thinking, and I just kind of noticing different things during the day, and thinking about even my nephews and nieces and things they get interested in. And I thought of something that John Taylor Gatto wrote I can't remember the quote exactly, but even in the last chapter for our book club, he just wrote about how the real world is where most education happens. And in another section of that book, or a different book, I can't remember, but somewhere else he's written several times, he wrote about this, how children, naturally, very naturally, children are super curious about the adult world. That, school separates kids from the adult world. We take them, we lock them in a room with each other. It's just a lot of other children of exactly the same age. And this is so unnatural. And, so John Taylor Gatto talks about how this is so unnatural, and then how if you actually watch children and you understand the natural way they learn, that they are super, super interested in the adult world, and that it's terrible to separate them away from the adult world, because they're so interested in the real world. And I saw this with Baby Chan yesterday. This is so simple. I mean, this is something we do all the time, right? Just grind up the coffee. But see, it's real compared to the toys, right? The plastic toys. The plastic toys they're okay, right? And then baby can play with the little plastic toys. It's nice. But the plastic toys did not hold the baby's attention the same way. The baby became so much more curious and fascinated. And even at that young age, the concentration, I was very surprised by the concentration. That the baby could stay focused on this one thing, this one little task of turning and grinding up the coffee, right? I kept thinking, well, certainly the baby's going to be bored in just a couple of minutes. This is not so exciting. But it was the opposite. The baby did. In fact, finally, we actually had to, because we're like, okay, we're ready for some coffee. We need to do it. We're getting impatient, right? Because the baby just would not quit. And so finally, we said, okay, let us do it now. But Baby Chan just was super, super, super curious. Why? Because this is something the adults are doing. Right? This is something that is part of the real world. Even something so simple like making a cup of coffee. But the baby sees us making the coffee, drinking the coffee, and becomes super curious. Oh, this is something in the adult world. This is something in the real world. What are they doing? And then maybe just asking lots of questions about it. Very, very fascinated. And I just thought that was such a great, small but powerful example of this, of how most education for babies, for children of all ages, really comes from them hanging out with adults, especially, of course, adult family members, and also sometimes with older children, like their brothers and sisters and their older cousins, for example. But the real world, not just kiddie world. This is a big problem, I think, now with education, children's education. I would say in general with childhood, the way we parent, the way we deal with children, think about children. We have this idea that childhood should be separate from adults, right? We try to make this whole child world for them, where they watch their little TV shows and movies just for children, and they read their little books, which are just for children. And then we lock them in schools all day, just with other children. Oh yeah, one adult at the front, but it's mostly just, 20, 30 other children. So they're just in child world all the time, and they're completely separated, completely unconnected, disconnected from, for example, the world of adult work. Completely disconnected from it. Now, this was true of my own childhood. I never had any idea what my dad did. Right? My mom stayed at home. My dad worked a full-time job. He worked at a big company, IBM. I knew that, but I had no idea. Zero idea. I had no idea what he did there. I had no idea. Because I never went there. I never saw him working. He never explained anything that he did. It was just like this kind of Like it was completely outside of my life and my world. Even though, think about it, it was so important. My dad's work was super important for our family. He because of his work, we had food, we had a house. I mean, it was super important what he was doing for us, and yet it was like a secret or something. It was very strange. But this is, I think, very common, this situation where we keep kids away from work, we keep kids away from the adult world in many, many ways. And it's very unhealthy. Because they are interested. That's what they're curious about. The adult world, the real world. That's what mostly gets their attention. Instead, we push all this child media stuff. Disney, for example. Disney movies, Disney TV shows, Disney books, stupid Disney characters, all this kind of stuff. Try to push all that stuff on them all the time instead of the real world. But what I could see with Baby Chan yesterday is the real world's so much more fascinating. And it's just little stuff at that young age, little stuff like making food, making dinner. Well, that's something the adults do. We all need to have food. So learning how to make food, helping to make dinner, helping to make lunch, not just sitting there like a little king or queen and letting mom and dad do everything, but instead have the children participate. As a family. Right? I mean, how many people grow up now and they never learn to cook? Right? They grow up, they go all through their childhood, all the way, they become adults. They've never learned how to cook anything. A basic skill of life. Now again, that was me. I'm not blaming because that's exactly what happened to me. I never cooked. I just thought, oh, cooking, that's something mom does, and sometimes dad does it, but that's nothing I'm going to do. Right? I was never involved in it. And so there I go off to school, to college. I couldn't do anything. Now, I finally did teach myself. I got cookbooks, and I started learning how to cook. I'm not a good cook. I'm not very good. I don't even really like it very much, honestly, but I can do it at least. I can keep myself alive. But I kind of regret it, actually. I kind of wish I had grown up learning that more. We need to involve kids of all ages. Get them working together with us as a family. Get them connected to the real world, the world of the social world of adults, and then just the natural world too. I always talk about my nephew because he's so focused on the natural world, and he really does not care about movies and video games, none of that stuff, because from a very young age he's been out in the natural world, looking at seeds and plants and bugs, and he's super fascinated. And once again, what's so interesting is that these real world things, they hold his attention. He has so much concentration. He can focus on these things. For example, he's recently looking at crayfish. They're like little crabs, and he's crazy about them. He can hunt for them and look for them and watch them for hours and hours and hours and hours. No boredom. Incredible concentration. Incredible curiosity. That's what's natural. See, one of the big dangers, one of the reasons I hate the Disney company, I'll just be straight with you. I hate Disney. I think they're evil. Evil. People, why, right? Like even my sister, right? Why do you think they're evil? They're evil because I think they destroy children's minds. If you watch some of these Disney shows for kids, I've watched some of them. The ones that are designed, like Disney TV, some of their videos that are designed for very small children, like 2 years old or really young. You might watch at first as an adult and you think, oh, well, it seems fine. It's just really colorful, and they just have some cute little thing happen with the characters, and What's the big deal? I'll tell you what the problem is. Those shows are designed to destroy your child's curiosity and destroy your child's concentration. This is the biggest thing that these shows do. It's not just Disney. Most of them do this. The movies, for example, a lot of the cartoon movies are like this too. If you go back and watch them, what you'll notice is that it's constant nonsense, right? It's constant, super bright colors. It's constant action, right? Constantly, the screen is changing. Constantly, there's just weird, strange stuff happening on the screen, in the movie, in the show, all the time. Super bright colors. Bright sounds, stupid little jokes, and it's constant. Boom, 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 boom. It's changing. I mean, I watched, I think it was one of the Ice Age movies with another nephew, and I was just shocked how it was just complete nonsense. There was almost no story. It's just about every 5 seconds, just some crazy, weird thing would happen. One of the characters would fall down, or there would be an explosion, or there would be a stupid little joke, or some big thing would happen, and it was just constant. And see, what it's doing is it's programming their brains to want and need that super strong stimulation, right? It's programming their brains to need all those super bright colors, all those super loud sounds, all the constant change every few seconds. Change. This is why their attention becomes so short, because they become programmed to need something new all the time. Every few seconds, gotta change. And they become programmed to need bright colors and super loud sounds and super crazy stories. Endlessly. Again and again. And when the child watches this too much, they start to lose their ability to just concentrate on something simple in the real world. Like Baby Chan yesterday, just focused on the coffee grinder for a long time. Or like my nephew, focused on crayfish for hours and hours without boredom. Right? But I know a lot of kids, when I was teaching, I see it a lot with a lot of kids who can hardly focus for 10 minutes on one thing. They need constant entertainment, usually from a screen, and just to go out in the natural world and like watch a bug, right, or watch ants on the ground for 30 minutes or an hour. Like, they can't do it. I used to do that stuff too when I was a kid. I used to go out and I'd watch ants for hours sometimes. I was fascinated. But a lot of kids now can't do it. And it goes back to a very young age watching this kind of media. That's why I feel that. I don't feel it, I think it. That's why I strongly believe that Disney and a lot of these other children's media companies are truly evil. They're destroying these kids' ability. They're destroying their natural curiosity by overwhelming their senses, overwhelming their ears and their eyes with this incredibly unnatural, super strong stimulation of colors and sights and sounds and movement. I mean, that's why when you put a child in front of one of these shows, they just sit there like a little zombie, just staring at it. It's not because the story's so incredibly interesting. There's usually almost no story at all. It's not because it's so meaningful and educational. No, it's because their little brains are being overwhelmed by all of the colors and sounds and movements that are changing every few seconds. It is overwhelming for them and very, very, very unhealthy. Far better to let them look at a coffee grinder for half an hour or bugs or something, or go look at leaves and trees, and real world or adult world, or both. Now, connected to this, I got another quote for you. Another Dhammapada quote. Been reading and rereading the Dhammapada. This one was a good one I found today. Here's a quote. It's good to live in virtue. Good to have faith. Good to attain the highest wisdom. Good to be pure in heart and mind. Joy will be yours always. Joy means happiness. And so this is giving a little formula for happiness. A very simple kind of formula. What should you focus on to be happy? Right? We get a lot of messages in the media, from schools, from everybody has an opinion about this topic. How to become happy? What to be happy? Oh, buy more stuff, become rich. What is it? What do we need? What are the key parts of being happy, living a joyful life? Happiness. Well, this quote says, number one, live in virtue. Live in virtue. Virtue basically means like morality, goodness, right? To be a good person. And these are the basic virtues, the Greeks and the Romans wrote about virtues and being virtuous. And the ancient Indians and the ancient Chinese and the ancient Japanese, they all did. They all wrote about this topic. And it's basically about being a good person, having, self-control over your mind and your body, not doing evil, bad things, not stealing, not cheating other people, not trying to harm other people for no reason, all that kind of stuff. So to live a virtuous life, to be honest, all those things. Number two, it's good to have faith. To have faith. So this points to, again, having a faith, a deep belief, a deep spiritual belief of some kind, or a spiritual realization or a connection. It's good to attain the highest wisdom. Here's that word wisdom again. So attain means to get. So it's good to get the highest wisdom, to get that deep understanding and knowledge from life experience, not just from books only. And finally, it's good to be pure in heart and mind. To be pure in heart and mind. Heart, usually in English, when we talk about heart, we're talking about emotion. And mind, we're talking about thought. So pure in heart and mind. I think we could summarize all of these things. This whole summary goes right back to our idea we've been discussing lately, which is this is all about, again, right, emotional and mental. Number one, discipline, that's virtue. And then number two, purity, to purify. So first you have to gain some control over your emotions and thoughts. That's living in virtue, right? So you do the right thing. And then as you go deeper, as you meditate and gain greater and greater and greater self-discipline, self-control, then you actually begin to purify. It means you actually start to eliminate, to get rid of the evil, the weakness, the fear, all of that within your own mind, within your own emotions. And as you do all of this, you'll grow happier and happier and happier. It's interesting because every part of this quote is focused internally. It's focused on your mind again, right? Mind and emotions again. Nothing about this talks about anything in the outside world, right? It's not talking about achieving any outside goals. It's not talking about, getting more money or lots of people like you. or you have high status, or nothing like that. Not even mentioned, right? Interesting that we come back again to this. This month's VIP lesson, like most of my VIP lessons really, is focused on this kind of topic again, right? I focus a lot on psychology. We could call it psychology, we could call it mental discipline, emotional discipline, virtue, wisdom. I teach you English at the same time I'm teaching you to master your own mind, or to gain greater mastery over your own mind. Now, I'm not perfect myself, so of course not. You know, many times when I make lessons for you, the topic is, in fact, I'd say most of the time, most of the time when I make lessons, the topic I'm teaching is something I'm working on myself. It's an issue I personally am working on in my own life. It's something I am trying to improve in my own life. So I'm never trying to teach you these things, I'm never saying I'm above you. Okay, I'm with you. Okay, that's always my attitude as a teacher when I'm teaching you these topics, is that I'm with you. Now, of course, my English ability is above yours. Of course it is, because I'm a native speaker. I grew up, as a baby speaking English, so it's my native language. So obviously I'm fluent, and I've read a lot of books, and I have for what it's worth, I've got a good amount of education and all of that. So my English ability, my public speaking ability, and even my teaching ability, English teaching ability, are very high. And that's why you're learning English with me. I mean, do you want that? When you want to learn English from someone who's very, very good at it. These other topics that I also teach, I'm not above you. I'm with you. I'm struggling with the same issues you are. I'm trying to just bringing you ideas, I'm teaching you strategies that I myself find helpful, that I myself have tried, and that they have helped me in some way, they have helped me to improve in this area in some way in my life. Sometimes just a little bit, sometimes a lot. So that's the spirit, the mindset I have as I'm teaching you these strategies for success, these strategies for mental discipline, emotional discipline, greater self-control, financial freedom, greater happiness, all of these things. We're doing this together. And I'm happy to share any strategies, any tools, any methods, any mindsets that I find helpful. So when you join my VIP program, you get these tools, these strategies, these mindsets that will help you master your mind, master your emotions, achieve greater success in life, and achieve greater happiness in life. You get that every month. That's kind of the bonus teaching. Some people feel that's the strongest point of VIP. Many VIP members tell me, especially long-term VIP members, people who are VIP members for many years, tell me that that's the most important part. It's more important than the English. The English is important. The English is powerful. They learn to speak English powerfully and effectively and confidently, fluently. And they tell me, even better than that are these topics, these strategies, these methods. That it's the most important, the most powerful, because it affects all of your life. So please join my VIP program. Join my VIP program and learn all of this to speak English fluently and powerfully and think in English, all of that, and also learning strategies for greater mental and emotional discipline, success, self-control, happiness, to achieve your goals and achieve the ultimate goal. Join my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. Make a commitment, really commit to this. Join my VIP program today at effortlessenglishclub.com. Q. Q. Q, 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 Q. Q. Hey. Q update. Let's talk about Q. Now, when I give you Q updates, let me explain something, by the way. When I give you Q updates, I am only giving you about 20% of Q. Because 80% of Q and Q's posts, Q's drops, about 80% of it is very detailed and focused on mostly American politics and the power struggle, right? The kind of the secret, we might call it cold civil war happening within the American government and within America in general. And so you're going to see lots of names of people, and Q uses initials usually when Q posts about these people in this power struggle. Q will just use letters like RR. And then you're like, well, who is RR? That's why it's hard to understand sometimes. If you just read the posts yourself, you'll say, well, who's RR? Who's BO? Who's Hussein? Because Q's using nicknames and these initials, and it's very complicated. And I think probably for most of you who are not Americans, this is a little too much detail. So that's why I don't talk about that, because it's a little too much detail, I know, about that stuff. So that's why I'm giving you mostly the really big ideas that come from Q, the big ideas, the big news that is more general, that will affect, maybe more of the world in general, internationally. And if you're interested in more than that, if you're interested in the details, if you really want to learn about the details, that's great. I suggest you follow there are several people who summarize Q every day, actually. They do videos or articles, I've mentioned them before, about Q, and they explain things in more detail. You may need some time to figure this out, okay? If you just start right now, you're going to need some time. You have to read some old articles, watch some old videos, and you just be patient, and you'll start to figure out more and more. But I'm going to recommend one of them today, a guy who does videos. It's really good. I love he's probably my favorite Q guy now. Q, I don't know, what do we call Q presenter. Okay, he's not Q. We don't know who Q is exactly, but he's one of the Q presenters. He presents the information from Q, and he analyzes it, and he tells his opinion about what does it mean. And, he says, this is my opinion. I might be wrong sometimes. Anyway, you follow him on Gab. He does a new video almost every day. So get on Gab, gab.ai, gab.ai. Then follow In Pursuit of Truth. In Pursuit of Truth. I repost, it's kind of like retweeting. I repost, I retweet his videos usually. So if you just go to my Gab, you'll see it, and then you can follow him. He's called In Pursuit of Truth. He's very good. He's kind of funny too. He tells some. I don't know if you understand his jokes, but he kind of jokes a lot too. So I like his attitude. He's very light, and he's a smart guy also. So In Pursuit of Truth on Gab. You can just follow me on Gab if you want, and then you'll find his videos on my timeline, because I repost his videos. My Gab is just my name, A-J-H-O-G-E. A-J Hoge on gab.ai, G-A-B.ai. And by the way, you should join Gab now. Now, I know I was on Gab before, and then I left, and now I'm back again. I realized that. Like I said, Gab made some mistakes early. Last year, they made some mistakes. They did. But they seem to have corrected their mistakes, and that's good. After trying gab.ai and minds.com and oneway.com, I've been playing with them, all three of those. Those are the kind of three social media alternatives. Not video, just social media. Those three social media alternatives, and I've looked at several others also. Gab is my favorite. Gab is the most useful. They also have improved the troll problem. I think they got rid of some of the worst ones. There's still some trolls on there, but I've been muting them before they even comment on my site. If I notice comments on someone else's post, like someone I'm following, I'll look at the comments sometimes. If I see anything that looks like a troll, I will click on their name and mute them immediately, just so it stops them, and they can't even get onto my channel. So I'm doing it as a prevention method. And so far working very well. I haven't had any problems. I think we'll be fine. Gab definitely seems to have improved in this area, which is, good, because we need an alternative. Because this is the Q News now. We are facing a big wave of censorship, a big new wave of attacks. This is what the social media, the evil companies, the faggot companies, right? Facebook, faggot is F-A-G-A-T, so it's Facebook, Apple, Google, Amazon, and Twitter are the big ones. So these faggot companies are really aggressively censoring. Right, they're blocking any political views they don't like, and it's becoming more and more aggressive. First, they were doing it to just a few big guys. Now they're moving on to more and more and more people, and they're becoming more and more aggressive. Probably because the American election is coming up. They want Trump's people to lose. They hate them. They're, remember, these faggot companies are basically communists. This is their mentality. Corporate communists. And so they want to get rid of anyone who doesn't agree with them, and they are doing it step by step. And what they do is they do it in waves. So they'll do a lot of censorship, and people get upset, so then they'll just do nothing for a while. They'll wait and wait and wait until everything becomes quiet again. Then they do a bunch more censorship. And Twitter's been doing this. Twitter has gotten rid of huge numbers of people now, are gone from Twitter. And of course, they all disagree with Twitter's politics. Well, we're getting another wave right now. Google's very aggressively censoring. Google is partially censoring me right now. This is called a shadow ban. A shadow ban, that's when they reduce your traffic. They reduce your traffic. They don't completely delete you, but what they do is they kind of start to hide you. And how do you know if you're being shadow banned? Well, you know because you see your traffic drop suddenly for no reason, right? Nothing has changed for my YouTube channel. But then just suddenly, maybe a month and a half ago, all my traffic just suddenly dropped. So I have a huge number of subscribers, but then suddenly my traffic for each video drops. That's a sign they're shadow banning. They're not notifying my subscribers. They're not notifying my subscribers about my new videos. They're hiding my new videos. This is a kind of censorship. This is, one of their first steps. And then eventually later, this is what they've done to so many people. They shadow ban for a long time, and then finally they delete you. Twitter does exactly the same thing. They shadow ban all the users they don't like. They try to hide them. They don't want new people to find these, find you if they don't like you. And then they'll finally then delete you. And I expect I will be deleted from Twitter and from Facebook eventually. I don't know when. I can't predict when, but the pattern is clear. Facebook has always shadow banned since I can remember. This is why I've never liked Facebook from very early. This is why I don't put much energy into Facebook. I use their live video for now. But you notice I don't post much to Facebook, and I almost never answer comments on Facebook. It's because I'm not going to use a lot of energy and time on Facebook just so they can delete my page. And also, they're already shadow banning me. Again, I have probably about almost a million followers on Facebook. My other site, Facebook page, Learn Real English, has over 1 million. And yet, when I do a post, when I do a video, they only show it to just a few thousand people, just a very few people. This is another method of shadow banning, and Facebook does it very aggressively. If they don't like your politics, if you're not a communist that loves the big government, they don't like you. Now, Twitter, I don't know if my Twitter's shadow banned yet. I haven't noticed much of a difference on Twitter so far, but, eventually I expect it to happen. Now, the reason I'm talking about this with Q is because Q just 2 days ago, I think it was, Q warned that there will be censorship attacks coming. And then very next day, it happened. So see, Q, like I said, most people think Q is really a team of people. And most people think it's part of the intelligence, the spying group that's part of the American military. So the American military. And they are fighting a kind of war, a kind of secret war in a way, against other parts of the American government and intelligence, especially the FBI and the CIA. This is an internal civil war in the United States. That's the government part. There's also, outside the government, there's Hollywood and social media, right? The media, the big corporate media, including the faggot companies, are against, all you and I and all the little small bloggers and the little small podcasters and all the many, 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 many independent people trying to get out the truth, trying to find the truth. And even within American society, very, very, very divided, even within families sometimes. So this is why I say it is like a cold civil war or a pre-civil war, meaning before a civil war. But there's already fighting happening. And Q is sort of sharing this knowledge. And this censorship war is part of this American cold civil war that's happening right now. Q warned us the attacks were coming. The very next day, Reddit, which is not one of the big ones, but it's probably a second level, but it's still fairly big. And Reddit was very important for Q because there were a lot of Q followers on Reddit. And the day after Q said, big censorship coming again, Reddit completely censored, completely deleted 2 whole sections of their website. And of course, it was the 2 sections focused on Q. It was where all the Q followers were communicating with each other. They deleted all of it. All of it for no reason, really, except they don't like it. They're trying to censor Q. They don't want people knowing about Q. They don't want people to start reading about Q. They don't want people interested in Q. They don't want people to start looking at the questions Q is asking. They want to hide Q. And they want to attack Q. If they can't hide Q, they're going to attack Q and say, oh, the Q people, they're violent and dangerous, which is completely stupid. It's just a lie. It's a complete 100% lie. So Reddit now, very aggressively censoring. Also that same day, Amazon, which was I think yesterday or 2 days ago, Amazon started to censor books. This is so dangerous. Book burning. We can call this digital book burning. Amazon is now starting to censor, meaning they're deleting books that they don't like. They're deleting books just because they don't like the politics. Unbelievable. Well, it is, I say unbelievable, but it actually is believable because Amazon is also run by another corporate communist. But this is George Orwell. This is Animal Farm. This is 1984. It's these companies that are doing it. These big media companies, the big lying fake news media, all the television media, Hollywood, all the movies and TV shows you watch, the news you watch, and these big internet tech companies. And now that includes Amazon has joined them, censoring books. What's really dangerous is they can delete books off of your device. Let's say you buy a book. Let's say there's a book that you buy it. Okay, for example, Animal Farm. Animal Farm is criticizes socialism. So what if Amazon decides that they don't like Animal Farm anymore? What can they do? Well, they can just delete it. What if you bought Animal Farm from them as an ebook and you've got it on your device? Amazon can remove it. They can delete it from their store, and also they can delete it from your device. They can delete it from your phone, right? From your Kindle reading app. They can just disappear books. A book that you paid for, a book that you own, they can still disappear it. That is super dangerous censorship. Evil. This is what we're facing. This is what we are fighting against. And of course, all the fake news media, TV, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and all the international versions of that, they're all supporting this. They're all supporting the censorship. Now, Q says the attacks will intensify. It means the attacks will increase. The censorship's going to get worse and worse, Q says. Now, Q does give us hope. Q says they have plans. The good guys, the Patriots, have plans. Q says that the censorship finally will fail. And I hope so. I hope so, but we don't know yet. We have to wait and see. Now, the good news is we're starting to see also some news about some parts of the U.S. government, some people in the government are talking about attacking Google and attacking these tech companies, breaking them into pieces, or controlling them, preventing them from censorship. Some people are talking about an Internet Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights, that's the part of the American Constitution that guarantees our main freedoms, such as freedom of speech. That's the big one, that's number one. So people are talking about passing a law in the United States that guarantees freedom of speech on the internet so that they would make it illegal for these companies to do this censorship and put them in jail if they did it. Let's hope. I don't know, but this is just the beginnings. It's not happening yet. It's just some people are talking about it. We have to wait and see. But we can't just wait for that to happen. We have to take action ourselves, and as you know, decentralization is the plan. This is our individual plan. We, of course, will support an Internet Bill of Rights. We, of course, will support breaking up these big, giant companies, destroying their monopolies. But that's far in the future. Right now, we've got to decentralize. That means find alternatives. Find alternatives. Now, the Q people, they know about this too. The people who follow Q, not Q, but the followers of Q. People like you and me who are interested in Q. They also know this. So the Reddit censorship, it's not going to work. In fact, it didn't work. They immediately left Reddit and they just joined another website that's very similar to Reddit. Right? So they're using this decentralization strategy. They just move from one site to the next. They moved over to one called Voat, V-O-A-T, Voat. I don't know how do you pronounce it. Voat, maybe Voat, Voat. So all the Q people from Reddit, they just moved over to Voat. Now suddenly Voat's getting huge numbers of people joining them. So that website is now becoming quite big because of Q, because there are millions of people who follow Q. This is big, and it's international. So Reddit's going to go down, and Voat is going to grow and get bigger and go up. So good. If you're someone who likes Reddit, I suggest get on Voat. I don't use Reddit, so I don't really know any details. What about Amazon? We need alternatives to Amazon. Well, the easiest alternative is publish your own book. Just self-publish. Now, I do this. I sell on Amazon, and I will until they delete my book. Why not? I can reach the audience on Amazon, but I don't depend on them. I don't need them. I can sell my book directly from my own website. Now, the good thing about self-publishing is you keep all the money yourself. See, if I sell my book on Amazon, they take 70% or 30% or 50%. I'm trying to remember what Amazon is. It depends if it's a physical book or an ebook. But they take a big, big percentage. So anyway, self-publishing, that's a good one. Also, there are other booksellers. There are many other booksellers. Kobo.com is one. Kobo.com. I don't know if they're also corporate communist. Probably, but I don't know. But anyway, we got to get alternatives. What about fake news? All the fake news on TV, all these fake news newspapers. What about in Hollywood? Well, again, support little independent alternatives, right? Get your news and your information from small, independent sources, many different sources. Follow Q, follow In Pursuit of Truth, read neonrevolt.com, and then find lots and lots of different little websites and blogs and, books. If you really want to go deep into a topic. Right? Don't trust the big ones. If it's a big corporation, don't trust them, because they're probably corporate communists and they're just lying to you. You can't trust anything you see on TV. Now, as you know, for me, my own personal decentralization plan, as I just was talking about, includes both video and social media. I separate those two categories. Number one is video, and number two is social media. My video, I have a few, I now have accounts in a few different backup channels, right? YouTube, of course, they have the big monopoly. Mostly they dominate video, but they're already shadow banning me, so I now have several other video channels. But I've decided on one. One is my main backup. Okay, so I have 3 backups, but that's too many for you maybe to worry about. We'll just start with one, and if that one has a problem, we'll jump to another one. So right now, I'm going to use BitChute. I've decided BitChute will be my alternative video channel. BitChute. So please get a BitChute account, subscribe to me, follow me on BitChute. That's BitChute, BitChute.com. And my account name is AJ Hoge. It's my name, AJHOGE. BitChute.com, AJ Hoge. Follow me there as the backup for my videos. For social media, I mentioned I've tried several, and I've decided that really Gab is the best now. I'm happy they made some improvements. I'm kind of surprised. I didn't expect it. I was so unhappy with them last year, but hey, I give them credit. They improved. So please follow me on Gab. Now's really the time, guys, because this censorship's going to get worse and worse. Okay, it's not going to get better for a while. We are a long way away from an Internet Bill of Rights. We're a long way away from these companies getting broken up It's going to take a lot. If it happens, it might not even happen. We don't know. But if it does happen, it's not going to happen soon. So in the short term, over the next year, let's say, over the next 12 months, it's going to be more and more and more and more censorship. So now is really the time we've got to develop these backups. We need these backup channels. If you want to communicate with me directly, ask me questions, give me suggestions, follow some little daily things from me, then Gab is the one I'm going to use as my main backup. So again, it's gab.ai, 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 and same account, AJ Hoge, AJHOGE, gab.ai, AJ Hoge. I also have these other accounts still. I'm on minds.com, MINDS, but I'm not very active there. I'm also on One Way, but I'm not very active. Those will be my second and third backups, okay? But for now, I'm not active. But I am active on Gab. I'm getting more and more active on Gab because basically I am 90% finished with Facebook. I'm 90% done with Facebook. My personal Facebook, I do nothing. I just post what are called memes that I know that Facebook will hate. I just put them on there just for fun. But I never put anything personal on my personal Facebook page. I don't want them having the information. And even my business Facebook page, which is Effortless English, I use it once a week for live video, but that's all. I never look at it the rest of the week. I don't answer comments there. I'm pretty much sick of Facebook. So that leaves Twitter. I am active on Twitter still. I still like Twitter. It's such a shame. It's too bad that their commie CEO and the rest of their corporate commie weirdos, crazy people at that company have decided that they don't want to be a business. They just want to they just want to do propaganda instead of having a business that's useful for everybody. They hate free speech. So unfortunately, Twitter's, I'm going to lose my Twitter account someday. This is my prediction. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope so. But I think eventually it will happen. And so again, if you want to communicate with me directly, get on Gab. Gab.ai. Gab.ai. Get on Gab and follow me there also. Follow me there on Gab also. Let's start developing that backup channel. Gab.ai, AJ Hoge. That's me. Okay, moving on. A little bit more about Q. So we talked about this. Seems to be this civil war happening in America. You can call it a cold civil war. Cold means there are no big battles, right? We don't see any obvious killing. I think people are dying, but it's all kind of happening secretly at the moment. But according to what we see from Q, and also this is not just Q, this is other information that I have, and just being American and knowing what's happening, is that we basically are in a kind of cold civil war, or the beginnings of a civil war. Oh my gosh, I just watched a cat just attacked and got a bird. Okay, anyway, I'm sitting at a park. Poor birdie. So anyway, we have this cold civil war happening in the United States. It's happening inside the government, where part of the government is fighting another part of the government. It's happening within the media, where mostly smaller independent media is fighting against these gigantic companies. And it's happening in the society itself, where certain areas of the country hate other areas of the country. certain groups of people in the country hate other groups of people in the country, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. What's going to happen? I don't know. I can't predict the future. I hope that the good guys win. The good guys are the Patriots. A patriot, that's a good word, a patriot. A patriot is someone who loves their country, who loves their country, who loves their history, who loves their culture, loves their heritage, loves their country, and fights for their country. That's called a patriot. And a traitor is someone who hates their country, hates their history, hates their heritage. They're anti, right? So the people living in America who are anti-American, they're traitors. Traitors are their spies. They're just invaders. But they hate America. Some of them were born in America and grew up in America, but for some reason they hate their own families. They hate their own culture. They hate their own country. They hate their own traditions. They're the enemy. And patriots are the opposite. They love their families. They love their traditions. And this is true. A patriot is any country, right? So if you grow up in China and you love China and you love Chinese history and Chinese culture and you want to promote and defend your country and your family, then you are a patriot. You're a Chinese patriot. Yeah, same too. If you're Mexican and you're born in Mexico, you grew up in Mexico, and you're proud of Mexico and Mexican culture and Mexican history and everything, the food, all of it, and your family, and you believe in Mexico, and you want to stay in Mexico and fight and try to create a better Mexico and fight for your country's prosperity and all of that, then you're a Mexican patriot. And so the same is true in America or any other country. Those are the patriots. So on the patriot side, we have, it seems, now this, I'm not a spy, so I can't tell you for sure, but it seems on the patriot side in America, we have the U.S. military, not all of it, but important parts of the U.S. military. We have some parts of other sections of the U.S. government, and then we have a lot of we have a lot of just regular patriots, just regular people, citizens who love America and their families and their culture. I'm one of those. On the other side, we have what's called the cabal, C-A-B-A-L, the cabal, the anti-American cabal. Cabal is the idea of a secret mafia, kind of a secret mafia. Not too secret, since we know about it, but that's the feeling of the word, cabal, kind of a mafia that's kind of secretive. And on the anti-American cabal side, some people call them the globalist, because these are people who want a one-world government. So this cabal, it's international. This is part of this fight. It's happening mostly in America. America is just the biggest, richest country. So that's why most of the fight is happening that I talk about is happening in America, but Q talks about how this is a worldwide battle. This is happening everywhere in the world. So it's the same thing. These globalists, this cabal, they hate patriots from every country. So if you're Brazilian and you love Brazil and you love your culture and your people, well, you're a Brazilian patriot. Well, the cabal, the international cabal, is against Brazilian patriots. They're trying to censor you too, right? Your news also, the corporate news, there's also kind of these corporate communists. They're also doing a lot of censorship and just lies, lies, lies. That's why a lot of Brazilians are on Gab now. So it is a worldwide fight, but a lot of the high-level fighting is happening in the United States just because there's so much power and money in the United States. Makes sense. This cabal includes most of the very large corporations in the world, especially the media companies. It includes Hollywood. In America, it includes the FBI, the CIA, and many others within the government. And this is confusing a little bit, because when you it becomes very confusing, especially for outsiders, when they see the American government do something, and they think, oh, the American government's doing this. But you have to ask, which part of the American government? Like, for example, in Syria, if you look at the Syrian situation with America, just America's part, not everything. The general situation is very complicated, but just America's part, it can seem super confusing, because it seems like you're like, what's happening? I don't understand, because it seems like America's supporting terrorists, and then on the other side, it seems like America's wants to pull out and leave. Well, it's because there are two different groups. You've got kind of the CIA group supporting the terrorists, and then you've got the other group that wants to destroy them and get out and leave. So it becomes really confusing if you just look at it as the American government, like it's one. You'll be very confused, because it seems like they're constantly going back and forth. Like, they do one thing and then they do something else that seems the opposite, and everyone says, oh, this is so confusing, what's happening? That's what's happening. Because you really have two groups within the American government, maybe more than two, but at least two. And this is true in lots of areas of the US government, so it becomes very confusing. So what will happen finally? I don't know. I hope if the Patriots win, I think there's a chance for peace. And hopefully there will be no real civil war in America with fighting and killing and all of that, with lots of people dying. I'm hoping the Patriots will win. They will destroy the cabal, and this will lead to a peaceful end. If the cabal wins, we're all in big trouble. If the cabal wins, we have two possibilities. Possibility one is war, lots and lots of death and killing inside America and around the world. Or possibility number two, we get 1984. We get George Orwell. We get a kind of international one world government where we have no freedom of speech at all. We have no freedom of commerce, meaning they'll control your money. If they don't like you, they'll just take away your ability to buy things. We're already seeing them try to do this now with some people. It will be just exactly what George Orwell described. That's what they want. So pray for the Patriots. Do your part. Decentralize for now. Get on gab.ai. Follow me on BitChute. Follow some of the Q stuff. Stand up for freedom of speech when you can. Find independent sources of information. That's the best we can do right now as individuals, without much power, you and I. Finally, just remember, where we go one, we go all. Fight, fight, fight. Don't quit. This is true for all things. I know some Brazilians sent me news that their Supreme Court made a ruling against homeschooling. And they're, we're losing the war for homeschooling in Brazil. No, you're not. No, you're not. You've lost a battle. This is a battle. You have to think long term. Remember the last podcast, ZFG, right? Zero fucks given. Don't focus on the immediate outcome, the short-term outcome. You just keep fighting. You will lose some battles, okay? Look at World War II. Both sides lost lots of battles, right? But you lose a battle, you just... You try to learn from it, and you keep fighting, and you keep fighting, and you keep fighting, and you do not quit. Okay, those of you in Brazil who are fighting for homeschooling, look, Americans are just ahead of you in this area. They already fought these battles, and they also lost some battles. And even today, Americans continue to fight very aggressively for homeschooling. Okay, the reason homeschooling is legal everywhere in the United States, and there are so many homeschooling rights, is because 20, 30 years ago, homeschooling families and parents, they fought these battles. They went to court. They lost sometimes. They didn't just quit when they lost. They went back and they fought again. They fought again. They started replacing politicians. They put pressure on the politicians. They started organizing. They formed groups. I'm a member of one of these groups. It's called the Homeschool Defense League, right? Where People join and give money, and this pays for lawyers to keep fighting these battles. And every now and then, sometimes in America, some state will try to take away some homeschool rights, and then the homeschool lawyers go fight them, and then all the homeschooling people get organized and start attacking them, and they put a lot of pressure. So they fight. They don't quit. If they lose one time, they just fight more. They raise more money, they get more organized, and they fight again. Doesn't matter about your Supreme Court. Number one, you can ignore them. Sometimes you just ignore bad laws. You have to choose, depends on what the consequences are. I mean, this is a strategic decision. I'm not going to tell you if you should or should not do that, but it's a choice. It's one possibility. But the second thing is, you realize judges can be replaced. Judges die. The Supreme Courts change all the time. Look at history in any country. Okay? I mean, lots and lots and lots of laws get changed. So, just because you lost one case in the court doesn't mean you can't change that, right? What if you get a new president in there? What if you start replacing the judges in the Supreme Court? Well, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, maybe sooner, it all could get changed. What if you change the government and just start pass a homeschool law that gives the right to homeschooling? Right? It's not going to come easily. They're not just going to give it to you. They won't just give it to you. You've got to fight and fight and fight. You will lose some battles. And even after you win, you have to keep fighting, because they're going to try to take them away. Even after you get the rights, they will try to take them away. We have freedom of speech in America, but look at these companies. They're taking them away anyway. They're taking away this right. So we've got to fight, fight, fight again. Okay, you just have to be like Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita and just sort of let go of the ups and downs. Don't get too upset when you lose some battles, when you have some failures. It happens. It's going to happen. You can't avoid it. And also, don't get too overconfident. Don't get overexcited when you win some, because just because you win today, tomorrow you might have a loss. Try to keep that equanimity, that mental and emotional calm, and just keep moving forward and fighting. Moving forward and fighting. Fighting for what's right. That's how you win the war. That's how you win the whole big war, not just one or two battles, okay? Losing a battle, losing a few battles, it's not a big deal, okay? The American Revolution is a good... Study the American Revolution, the fight against England, Britain. The Americans lost most of the major battles, okay? They lost most of the major battles, but they won the war, because they kept fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting, and they exhausted the British eventually. And then finally they did win a really big one at the end. That's the mindset you need to have with these kinds of battles. It's just like the censorship thing. Like in the beginning, I was getting very upset about it too, emotionally. Beginning meaning a couple years ago. I was getting much too emotional about it, because freedom of speech is such an important value for Americans. It's part of our heritage and our background. It's our First Amendment. It's the center of who we are as Americans. And so when these companies started doing this censorship, I got very upset and emotional. But it's a mistake, because it didn't help. It didn't help me to become more effective. Finally, as I gained more emotional and mental control and started to look at it strategically, I realized, well, look, these companies have the power. This is the situation now. I don't like it, but this is the way it is. So I have to think strategically. How do I act? How do we win the war? Well, right now, the first strategy is decentralization. We've got to get onto other sites, other platforms that are pro-free speech. Now, these other sites, they're not perfect, okay? They don't have the same level of money that the big sites have, okay? Twitter is owned by a big Saudi prince, a guy that went to jail last year, by the way. So they've got huge amounts of money. Facebook by that idiot Zuckerberg, right? But lots of banking money supporting Facebook. Amazon, supported by the U.S. government, the CIA, gives them billions and billions of dollars in contracts. So yes, the alternatives are not as technically good, maybe. Okay, Gab doesn't have that kind of money. Minds doesn't have that kind of money. BitChute is, super small compared to Google and YouTube. It's not perfect, but it doesn't matter. We've got to do what we have to do. We have to think strategically, and that means supporting some of these alternative platforms. It means decentralizing, even if it's a little inconvenient. And if one of these alternative sites has a problem or goes down or gets bought by a big company, then we just move to another one. Okay, we got to be mobile and flexible. That's our advantage. That's our big advantage, right? That's the advantage of small businesses, of individual people, of small armies. Okay, it's the speed and the flexibility. We have to use that great strategic advantage we have to move quickly. That's what the Q guys just did. All those Q followers, they deleted them from Reddit. What do? In one day, they all move over. A huge number of them move over to a new site, Voat. Now they're supporting Voat. Voat's growing incredibly fast. They're flexible. They're fast. This is what we do, right? So right now, let's get on Gab. We'll use Gab as our alternative. If we have problems with Gab again, we'll just jump to another one, okay? They're all basically the same. I mean, there's nothing special about Facebook, is there? There's nothing really special about Twitter. I mean, it's just you post a few sentences and you send, and then you leave a comment. They're all basic. They're all basically the same. Right? They look a little different, the layout's a little different, the functions are a little different, but the main functions are exactly the same for all of these sites. So honestly, it doesn't really matter which one we use, right? So let's just decentralize. Let's get onto a backup one like Gab, and we'll use it for a while. And if it continues to improve, we'll stay there. If it doesn't, and if it gets worse, we'll go somewhere else. No big deal. Okay, this is the mindset, right? Just like Arjuna, let go of that emotion of up and down and up and down. Take a longer view. Equanimity, right? ZFG. Just, hey, doesn't matter. I'm going to keep fighting. We're going to keep going. If tomorrow we have a failure, tomorrow we have a problem, and then the next day we win something, and the next day another problem, just stay calm. Stay calm and keep going forward. ZFG is power. Okay, finally, in today's little bit long show with our code, I'd like to remind you of the code of the Effortless English family. The code is our basic principles, we could say. It's our basic guidelines, kind of like rules, but they're not so specific as rules. Number 1, we do the best we can. Number 2, we do the right thing. Number 3, we show each other we care. It is these three parts of the code that make our Effortless English family special. We do the best we can. We do the best we can. This means you do the best you can. It means you try hard, of course. When something's important to you, maybe it's learning English or anything, of course you fight hard, you try hard, you focus, you concentrate, you use some effort. Whatever it is you need to do, you do it. You do your best. In this idea is also that you're not perfect. Right? You do your best. It doesn't mean you must be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. Right? You're going to have losses. You're going to have failures. I make mistakes. I make English mistakes. I'm an English teacher. I make public English mistakes sometimes, right? You'll hear them in my recordings. Hear them when I do a speech sometimes. I don't know. Sometimes I mispronounce a word or something or whatever. So I do it, you're going to do it, we all do it. But you just do your best. I do my best. Right? I do my best. It's good enough. It's enough. It is enough. Just do your best. Don't get worried about the mistakes. Don't get too upset about the downs, the failures, the losses. They will happen. Just do your best, okay? Ultimately, it's the battle inside that's important. We do the right thing. This is virtue, right? We do the right thing. We do what is virtuous. This is that moral code. It's very clear, right? You can look at number one. You can look at the major religions we have today. They all have quite similar moral codes. You know, right? They had the 10 Commandments for Christians and Jews and Muslims too, I guess. Buddhism has the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, you know, Hindus have their own code, but they're very similar, right? Don't murder people, don't steal, don't cheat, be honest, right? It's and we can even go back, and even in non-religiously, if you just look at the virtues of the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans, well, they had the same ideas about how to be a virtuous person, right? To do the right thing, take care of your family, fight for your family, be honorable, be honest, don't murder, don't steal, right? This is virtue. And that's what number 2 is. We do the right thing. And number 3, we show each other we care. We show each other we care. This is probably the best one. And this is the one I think that really makes our group special. We show each other we care. You can do it in small ways. Doesn't have to be big. Small ways. Show other Effortless English family members that you care. You can do it in such small ways. Just encourage them. When someone's having a tough time, you just, one little sentence on Gab where you send them an encouraging message. Hey, you can do it. You'll be okay. That's one great way to show you care. Another great way, like something I've noticed a lot of our Effortless English members doing, again on social media, is just answering questions. And new people come a lot, right? We always getting new people because of my podcast, my show. And they always have questions. Many times they have the same questions. Understandable. And so many of our Effortless English members, the experienced members, will answer their questions very patiently, very kindly. They show they care. It's fantastic. And always we have days, you and me and all of us, where we're just having a tough day, right? We just, our confidence drops. Maybe it's one of those days where we have a big failure, or we make some mistakes, or we have a loss, right? We lose, and we don't win, we lose. And we feeling bad, and then again, the other members come in and bring us back up and remind us, stay strong, keep going. And finally, we have those days where we're doing great and we're excited and we have a success and we share our success story. And showing you care also means celebrate the success of other members. We're not jealous of them. We're happy for them. We're like, yes, great, fantastic. Good job. We share in their happiness. That's also part of showing that you care. This simple code, just 3 little sentences, is what makes our Effortless English family so different, so powerful, so special. We do the best we can. We do the right thing. We show each other we care. As long as you agree to that code and you like that code, then please join my VIP program. Join my VIP program. Become part of that code. Become part of that Effortless English VIP family. Speak powerfully. Speak confidently. Think in English. speak English effortlessly, join my VIP program today at effortlessenglishclub.com. That is effortlessenglishclub.com. Go there today. Join today. effortlessenglishclub.com.